Let's get ready to rumble!
Sports Extra is bringing you the hottest sports updates starting now in 3, 2, 1. Yo, what is good, everyone? Welcome into this Monday afternoon as you have the pleasure of listening to two men talking sports for a good hour. My name, Coby Clark. Over there, Joseph the Lawn Moore. Man, it should be a lot of fun here. We got a lot of topics to discuss. Unfortunately, a lot of bad news when it comes to our teams. But, Joe, first off, I always like to talk about how are you? What is going on in the life of Joseph Moore?
You know, sometimes I sit back and I'm like, man, I have a really hard life. You know what I mean? My life is terrible. But then I hear a story about Mattress Mac, the millionaire mattress firm person.
That's
losing $5 million in bets over the last 3-4 weeks.
Dude, he's lost so much money. It's absurd.
Yeah, but he has a net worth of like $300 million. So but still
True.
$500 million. It's insane. So, comparison to Mattress Mac, Joe Mack is doing pretty good.
But do you really think it affects him when he loses that much money?
I was thinking, if I was 80-something with 300, million or some odd, in the bank or in real estate or whatever, and I was like 80-something, I feel like at that point I'll just be like, you know what? I'll just bet it. Just bet it all.
There you
Come
go.
on now.
I got to make sure my family and their family is set up for a future.
Whatever floats your boats, whatever gets your blood flowing and stuff, I can't be mad at it, especially when I got that much money in the bank. You only live once.
Oh, absolutely. I'll tell you right now, this week has been a blur. Very quick one. A lot happening, a lot about to be happening, especially in personal lives and at the station. So a lot of good stuff coming your way for everyone listening. We had a good call-out meeting just last week. We had a few people show up. Shout out to CJ, It's really the only person that showed up.
There we go. Hey, that's one. I'll take a good quality one over a bunch of people who ain't gonna show up. So
that's
shout out to him. And it's still not too late to join. Third floor drives, like you always say, just come on through. Anytime there's somebody here, we'd love to have you.
I would always take one close friend over 100, iffy friends.
Bar.
All
I need is a few, dudes, man. Just
straight
ride or die.
In your circle.
Just be there. If I ever, get into, some activity that I need to get bailed out of, there we go. Always have that friend to, back you up.
Straight up.
Keep your friends close.
And your enemies closer. Which I never understood that saying.
Exactly.
It's weird.
Hey, shout out to whoever did. I'm sure they're doing great things.
Enough about us. Sports time, ladies and gentlemen. Should be a lot of fun. The sad part is it's just really hard to think about this. We're going to start off today's episode with the women's side of things for Indiana State.
Facts.
And then we're going to talk about the men because that is a whole grain of salt that I don't think you guys are even ready to be listening to.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on, but I digress. Let's focus on a team that actually won a basketball game. That's a bar. The Indiana State women's Sycamores team. They were currently also on a losing streak of their own, a 3-game losing streak, but they did come out with the victory on the road, and they did close out a potential 4th-game losing streak, sort of like how the men's team is going on. Huge shout-out goes to Maya Glanton. One heck of a game for her. 21 points, 10 rebounds. A huge part. And coming off the bench and making that big of a factor.
Yeah, doing all that in 25
that's
minutes
insane.
of play. Great. Fantastic. I think, when it comes to this Indiana State women's Sycamore squad, we have some of the most versatile, big girls in our conference.
Right.
We have so much when it comes to switchability, when it comes to ranginess, when it comes to getting the grit and grind done like Maya Glenn does. This is definitely a squad where, whatever, if they have a dominant big girl on their squad, we can throw somebody or a combination of bodies at her to try to get the job done. It's really, but again, really impressive, really awesome performance from Maya Glenn.
I think the one thing about this women's team compared to, years past, still head coach Chad Killinger in his 2nd season as the head coach. So a little bit, of an uproar, I would say, at the beginning of the year. We all, kind of got invested a little bit. just now losing. And, that happens when around this time of year, especially
Word.
when the Missouri Valley Conference, a lot of conference games come your way. You're going to be seeing a lot of teams that from previous years, a lot of teams that know your strengths, and a lot of teams that can expose your weaknesses. This one team in particular did not do that, though, and that was Bradley.
Yeah.
So,
And Bradley just hasn't been having a good season in general. I believe they came in the contest 3-15, and
it's very weird.
They have not won a conference game. But when it comes to this girl squad, when you see a matchup like this on your schedule, this is one that you want to get a little bit of momentum behind you. It feels like we say that every week. Just momentum is just such a big part of
it's so hard to stay with, though.
Yeah, it is. And once we get into ISU men's basketball, that's
that's an easy example.
Exactly. That's we can go right into that. But again, this was a bad team, and then ISU got it done. Had a season high, if not college career high for Maya Glanson in this performance, and you can't really ask too much more.
The one thing that I want to know is if you looked down this roster of how the women's Sycamores team is stacked up. I mean, this team is so unique in the way that one team like this. You could really say this about any other team, I guess, in the not only the conference but in the country. But this team has everything you'd want and more. I mean, you have some nice bench pieces like Caitlin Anderson, and then sometimes even Hattie Westerfeld coming off the bench. Those two in particular, a guard and a big man that can facilitate and make such of a difference. That's important to a team like this. Then you go and you look at the starters and who you have as leaders right now. Anna McKendry, Chelsea Kane, those two have really stepped up. One player that we know that's going to be great in the near future, Bella Finnegan, Ella Sawyer. Those two names right there. I mean, besides Ella Sawyer, who's she's been up and down on the roster right now. She's been hurt earlier on, just last week, a couple of weeks ago. But one name, Bella Finnegan. I mean, this team right now, it's set up to where there's still great leaders at the top, but the next generation of Lady Sycamores who are going to be coming up in as freshmen next year, freshmen now, sophomores now, they're going to have to take a bigger jump. And I think they're already prepared for something like that, Joe.
Yeah, I might have to disagree with you a little bit.
I understand.
Because I feel like when it comes to this squad, there's just so many seniors. Just going down the list of a few names that were coming from this game. Caitlin Anderson, senior. You have Anna McKendry, senior. You have
it is tough.
Delgene Williams, senior. Yeah. Chelsea Kane, senior. And those are multiple starters. So it just feels like we need to have a really solid recruiting class going forward.
Yes.
But I don't. Like you said, I don't hate what we are doing just because it just feels like this is a team that's not going to be at the top of the Missouri Valley Conference in terms of play. However, I feel like, these are type of veterans that, know the program, know how to pass their knowledge on to the, junior, sophomore, freshman.
They've been here before. They know
exactly.
They know what Killinger and this team is expecting of them.
Exactly.
And they're just, pass it on.
Yeah, exactly. This feels like more of a passing the torch type of squad to where okay, we've been through where we, were one of the worst, if not the worst teams in the Missouri Valley Conference, going to, okay, we're a semi-competitive team.
Right.
So now we're a competitive team. And now, I'm moving, like you said, passing the torch on to the people in the underclass to try to get it going when it comes to their squads moving into the future next year. So, but I do think it's going to be really dependent on this next freshman class that comes in.
Oh, huge.
To where, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a dip next year in terms of, wins. But I wouldn't want to see too drastic, but a slight dip, I wouldn't be surprised. But I feel like after that, Finnegan's going to be a junior, and we're probably going to have, a couple of girls on the squad to where we, immediately make an impact and make a big jump, because it just feels like the squad has, went through the little ups and downs here. It's just been a pretty positive trajectory to where it's going to be a pretty good squad moving forward. But yeah, definitely want to have that good recruiting class.
I think if you just look at this team right now, and specifically going down the roster, we have a redshirt junior in Maya Glanton. So seeing how well of a performance that she did yesterday,
Facts.
And not even just specifically her, but just how this team can finish out the remaining weeks. I mean, there's only about 5, 6, 7 weeks-ish around that time period of basketball left here for the women. So there is a lot riding on this success at the later stages that you could take on into the summer, fall camps, and then, of course, whenever basketball starts up in the winter. Sure. Maya Glanton, redshirt junior. Summer Pitzer, redshirt junior. Ella Sawyer, a senior. Adrian Folks, a redshirt junior. And she's been up and down as well on playing time. Natalia Lalick, a grad student. Florence, she's also a grad student. But those two, they've been trying to get a little bit more playing time.
Yeah.
Westerfeld, who's a junior, she has been huge off the bench in games that I have personally seen and called.
100%.
McKendry senior, Kane senior, Blackwell senior. I mean, the only freshmen are Lily Nyber and Bella Finnegan.
Yeah.
And then you have seniors, Williams, who probably one of, if not a top huge part of success here at Indiana State in the program's history.
100%.
Almost became the second ever women to record a triple-double, which I'll get into that game.
Yep.
And then Kayla Anderson. So this team, which is, there's a lot of seniors, but hopefully with what the seniors give them, these freshmen and, other players can take on for a huge, much bigger role that Killinger is expecting from them next year.
100%. I have to agree.
And then when you look at the Missouri Valley Conference for the women, I mean, Indiana State was sort of like in the midst of it all at the beginning and towards the middle, but now they've really started to fall with all this conference play coming their way. Bleeding team in the women's Missouri Valley Conference, Illinois State and Northern Iowa. Those two teams you expect to be there. Drake, another name. Those three are just very hard to come at. And then you have Indiana State, Valparaiso, and Bradley at your bottom three, who you just defeated Bradley just yesterday. And then if you want to go back and then look at the next remaining schedule for everything coming up, you have Belmont, who is currently number 5 in the Missouri Valley Conference. And then it's just very tough when you look at Evansville hasn't had the most success. They're just a few games above you on the Missouri Valley Conference rankings. Then you have Valparaiso, who's below you, and then UIC, who's at the also just above Evansville. So very winnable games coming this way. For other teams and other schools that have just not been able to kind of figure this one out on their season as well. So all these teams kind of expecting the same thing as well when it comes to this idea of, hey, we haven't had the best year. These teams haven't, but we can improve on this and match up against them, saying, hey, we're not the worst of the worst.
Exactly.
Still figured out.
Exactly. I would have to agree. And, again, it's not really how you start, it's how you finish.
Oh, easily.
So, again, like once we get to the, nitty gritty towards, once we're approaching the end of the season, it's really about, just grinding out those wins,
Right.
ending on a high note, especially when it comes to so many seniors being on the squad. You just want to have that, kind of confidence boost.
Exactly.
These are the last, most like organized, games that you'll probably play for most of them. So it's going to be like very important to like end on a high note, especially in terms of the program. You always want to, I'm a firm believer if you end the season, and positive, no matter where you were in terms of the standings and where you were in terms of wins and losses, once you get to that end of the season, you want to have that really high so you can go into the next season with somewhat of a hopeful mentality.
Exactly. I mean, just a few days ago, whenever this game was, I mean, they played Bradley. They won 71-60, and whenever Indiana State has scored 70 or more points, they have not lost a contest. It's very huge to note. And then you look at how well – we already talked about how well of a game Maya Glanton had with her 21-point game, but Deljanae Williams almost having a triple-double, 8 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. That would have been absolutely huge. She definitely would have been solidified as one of the best because that would have been the second ever woman to ever do that here at
Insane.
ISU.
Absolutely insane.
It's just tough. I really want to see this team succeed, but unfortunately with everything going on and how many players they're going to be losing, it should be an excitement thing. Youth is really what you want to see in sports. Out with the old, in with the new sort of thing. But we're going to have to see how Killinger and just everyone, finishes out the season. We still have the women's Hoops in the Heartland coming up in the middle of March,
There you go.
which is in Moline, Illinois. So get your tickets ready. Should be a lot of fun. Go support your Lady Sycamores.
I completely agree.
A lot of games coming their way. Let's transition now into the men's Sycamore side of things, which is pretty tough.
Yeah, tough. Tough for sure. Tough for sure. Talk to me about it.
Man, this team, losers of now 4 in a row.
How are we here, Coby? How are we here?
I don't know, man. It just hurts. And there's like some sort of burden on me that hurts to know that we were so high up there and now we're down.
Man, it feels like the basketball gods, right? Saw Indiana and the people in the Indiana area.
You're having fun?
Oh, they having fun? Nah. Can't have that happen.
Get that
Tyrese
outta here.
Haliburton, injured.
Yep.
Indiana State, lose 4 straight. It's just like, Dang. Oh,
That one hurt.
so tragic. So tragic.
Oh, that's a good preview. We're going to talk about Tyrese in a little bit. Oh, that's a lot more fun to talk. Maybe. We're also losing pace. What is going on with the sports? 2023 is not Indiana's year so far.
Exactly.
No, but they just did unfortunately lose. They started out this season, Joe, 13-4. Where if you really look at the games that they lost, there was still a very winnable margin of like one or two possessions where they should maybe have been 15-2 to an extent. But now you're at 13-8 on this season. You were 6-0 in your conference, and now you're 6-4. A huge turnaround.
Huge.
I mean,
Absolutely
lost.
huge.
We know how good Murray State is some days, and unfortunately, on the road, you're just not going to be able to do it.
Yep.
I mean, McCauley put up 19, which was a team high. Avila had a career high for himself with 18, but it just still could not get the job done, falling by 9.
And I think I spoke too soon the last time that I was on here because I mentally keep my own receipts. And I was like, okay, there's not really one thing that Indiana State has been doing negatively in all the games that they've been losing. And so, I was like, okay, it looks up. You feel me? It feels
I get
like,
you.
It feels like, they're going to, figure it out to where like, okay, this might have been just like a few, bumps in the road here. It's basketball. Sometimes you're just going to lose a game to, a team that isn't, better than you. It just kind of feels like,
it's facts. It just happens.
Somebody just decides to wake up and be prime Coby. You know what I mean? Sometimes it just happens.
Wish.
I swear. It never happens to me. Never happens to
never
me,
be
but it
me.
happens to everybody else. But like, I lied because it feels like with this Sycamore squad, we haven't been able to really get that 3 ball to fall consistently for the majority of the squad.
Right.
Because, if you go through it, this last game we shot, 16% from the 3-point line. And then you go to the game before that where Indiana State shot 20% from a 3-point line. And then you go into the game before that, and Indiana State shot 26% from the 3-point line.
Wow.
And then to the most, the first loss in this losing streak, we shot 34% from the 3, which wasn't terrible, but still, kind of below Indiana State standards going into, from what we saw the receipts from the year coming up to it. So it just feels like we haven't been able to get our shot to really fall. And it's been a couple of times. It's not from a lack of attempts, though. It feels like, McCauley.
The attempts are there.
Yeah, exactly. McCauley's going to shoot. You know what I mean?
And he's a shooter.
Exactly.
He's a hooper.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a dog when he's
He's
hot.
a dog when he's hot. It's like McCauley can shoot. We all know Cooper Neese can shoot.
He is also another guy who's just he's just in a slump.
Exactly. And
It's weird.
And it's just like kind of just all around to where like, again, we have, Jason Kent can shoot. We have so many guys that can
He doesn't shoot
really-
enough.
He doesn't
I'll
shoot
say
enough. I feel like Jason Kent definitely does need to take more 3-point shots. However, it feels like this whole squad has not been able. There's just been a lid on the basket from behind the arc, and that's really hard. You know what I mean? That's really hard to kind of like break down from analytical perspective or like, especially a coaching perspective, because you don't really know how to like address that to where like because eventually like shooters just don't shoot. And sometimes it goes down, sometimes it's not. It's not like these guys like, just completely forgot how to shoot the 3 ball. It's just
Right.
like, just hasn't been falling. And normally that, symptom is kind of like supplemented by home play. Whenever they're at home, 3-point shooters are much more better at, making their shots and stuff. But, half of these games that we lost in the losing streak have been at home. And,
Which is absurd because of how well we've been
at
home.
It's
in the
insane.
Holman Center.
It is so odd. That's the funny thing about like basketball because this is mental as a game as any other type of sport.
Oh, easily.
Whether it be like an esport or like board game or even just any other game, it just feels like this isn't really an athletic question. It's a question of mentality. So I think going forward, it's really going to be really really testing for the Sycamore squad because coming up. You have Drake. That's going to be a tough one. You know what
easily.
I mean? Northern Illinois, luckily you at home, and then Evansville, that could be a break for you, just based on how the other Evansville game went for you. So it's just like, hopefully, again, the basketball gods work in mysterious ways. Hopefully, Indiana State is getting their stroke back when it comes to Drake on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But it's just... It's tough.
Joe, I need to ask you this question.
Shoot.
If you look at this roster, and just, key names. I'm just going to throw them out. Julian Larry. We're going to play a game. You're going to give me a thumbs up, which shout out to our Twitch viewers. You're going to say and give me a thumbs up if they have exceeded expectations or have downplayed those expectations this season.
To like where we were coming into the season?
To where we are
now.
When we were like 13 and like this 4-game losing streak, like when we were like hot and ready to go.
And to now. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha. Shoot.
I'm going to go down the list that are of notable names, just a few. If you don't get your name called, I'm sorry. If you're listening, shout out, come through. Julian Larry. Personally, this is a name that I would say I'm giving my thumbs up to because he not only was he a bench player still coming into the season, but his defense has only improved and he has now started a game. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot you could have not taken away besides maybe taking a next step in offense. But his thing is defense. He's like the Marcus Smart of this team.
The reason that I hesitate is because Julian Larry was Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Week. This was before the losing streak began.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's such a high, and that was, undoubtedly the highest, that those stretch of games were the highest, that we've seen from him in terms of play. And so it's kind of hard to compare that to where, like, maybe we're seeing a coming down to earth moment. But, like...
Which I hope not.
I hope not, because he plays so well. And he plays with such mentality and ferocity. I love it.
I love the way he plays. No one plays.
I'm going to say thumbs up. I'm going to say thumbs up. It's kind of like a half glass full, half glass empty type of thing.
Let's just say it's shaken.
Yeah, it's in the middle. I haven't been too bad at him because like when the scoring's not there, the defense is there. When the playmaking's, normally the playmaking's there. That's a really not a good answer. But like normally that's not there. Then,
that's another thing I didn't even mention. His playmaking ability has been off the charts.
Exactly. So like normally like if his shot's not falling, he's doing something else on the court that contributes to winning. But just when nobody's hitting their shot, it just kind of looks worse. But I would say I'll give a thumbs up hesitantly.
Cooper Neese.
Down.
I mean, straight up, it's just a down.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's not really against him. It just
I know.
feels like sometimes people just have, slumps and stuff. And, unfortunately, it comes at a time where it seems like everybody else is having a slump. But, yeah, it just, he's just one of those guys you look to where, like, okay, if XYZ player is not on, he's going to be able to at least make something happen on the court. Whether that be, make sure like his movements in a way to where it just opens up somebody else, or movement in a way to where like, he can get open and then hit his shot, off the dribble, midi, jump or something like that. Even a cut to the basket because sometimes he puts the ball on the floor. It's hard, but like, again, I feel like he's, kind of in a bit of a slump like with the rest of the team. So I would say down.
I feel like the only reason people, no one would really say a whole lot. They would actually be complete opposite. If you see this team winning and you're like, wow, Cooper Neese only put up like 8 points. That's weird. But hey, we're still winning.
Exactly.
But now you're looking at it like, hey, Cooper Neese is putting up 8 points in L's. Like, what's going on with this team? What's going on with our leader?
That's true. But like, sometimes that just kind of happens to where like, you're kind of playing your role and you're playing your game in the right way.
I don't think he deserves all the blame.
Sometimes it happens.
Now, I understand there are slumps. Don't get me wrong. But ever since his injury, there hasn't been a game where I can just fondly remember that he's really turned up.
That's also a really good point. It might just be, the injuries nagging him a little bit. It also could be the result of, the rest of the squad because, like, this is a team that plays very fast. It just to the point of the season because these are kind of like the dog days of the season. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of have
need these wins.
Exactly.
These are the most important wins.
You already have some, miles on. You have a decent amount of mileage coming into these games. Especially, again, like how they play, just, run and gun. And then, like, it just kind of feels like, okay, now the body's kind of catching up to, the high that you were running on and stuff. And then it's just like you don't have the legs under you to, like shoot well, which is, definitely a really good point.
Yeah, I really hope he does. I would just hope he figures it out.
I'm sure they will.
Man, it's just tough looking at right now.
They just need like one really good practice, one really good day of, rest. And I feel like the squad is going to be back to where we saw like last year. Because it's, again, I'm not one to be like, oh, they're just bad now. Like there's always a reason to why, somebody's shot is not falling, whether it be gas, whether their legs not under, whether it's just like, even like when it comes to like scientifically where it's like shot lines and the, depth of the court is just different in these arenas. It's just, again, once they get it going here, I'm sure it's going to be fine. This might just be a scary point, But you know,
Oh, yeah.
if it feels like it's definitely not lost. It's definitely not lost.
Let me throw this name out for you. This one is a little weird. Cameron Henry. Personally,
Ooh,
this is what I'm thinking.
a good
I'm
question.
thinking Cameron Henry's so consistent when it comes to scoring. Like, I don't remember the last time this man hasn't had like some sort of impact on the court. This man, every time he goes out there, he stays out there the majority of the time. Whenever you see the first substitutes go, he's usually still on the court. He's killing it. You know, he's leading. He's a great defender. I mean, I can go on and on. The one thing that has really been hurting him, foul trouble.
Foul trouble.
Technical
for sure.
fouls. I mean, some people look at that and they just immediately say, hey, he's an emotional player. Let's attack that.
And I feel like that's stupid. Because like
I'm not wrong,
keeping it
though.
a buck. You're not wrong. No, you're not wrong. I'm not calling you stupid.
Oh, I got
I'm
you.
thinking about like because I've always seen like I always constantly see refs always act like, oh, since this player is like, you know, super irate or, they're just kind of like getting into where they're yelling and then they're being a little bit provocative, then, oh, it's a tech. Oh, he's a
Some of those
cancer in
do
the
not
locker
deserve to
room
be techs,
or
I'll be
blah,
honest.
blah, you know what I mean?
Some of those don't.
I would give like it just shouldn't be a tech. But like, it just feels like that always happens and it's so unfortunate because it's just
know.
like these players love this game.
Oh, I get it.
And you cannot punish them for loving the game. That's, whenever I see a tech where it's just like, a person just like screams after a dunk or, makes a really nice pass and be like, dap somebody up really hard or something. It's just like tech unsportsmanlike. Like what?
Right.
I'm punishing you
that.
because you're having too much fun.
Are you enjoying? Are you showing emotion?
Get him out.
Like, he got a technical for just flexing.
It's insane.
That should never be a technical in any level of basketball.
Exactly.
In any
I
level
agree.
of sport.
I will say the only person on this team that probably get texts and like, half of the time is kind of deserved is probably Xavier Bledson because Xavier Bledson, again, he's one of these guys who plays with a lot of passion, but he's going to, let the other team hear it. You know what I mean?
I would say for Henry,
is
I'm
amazing.
going to have to give him a thumbs up just because I know how well of a leader. A lot of people look up to him, and he's just been killing it. I just need those
Really
are the
steady.
only issues I have.
He kind of reminds me of like a TJ Warren type guy to where like,
That's such a good.
yeah,
That's very good.
in size and kind of in play style to where like he's just going to be a steady scorer. You know what I mean? He's not going to be doing anything too flashy to where like he's not going to be doing no like dribble, step back.
We talking
pull up
bubble
threes.
TJ or no?
Okay, bubble TJ is prime Michael Jordan. I'm not calling Cameron.
miss
Yeah.
Bubble TJ literally showed up and then dipped for 2 years.
Exactly, it's crazy. He had like a foot injury and he was just out. Like he just didn't play. It wasn't crazy.
He didn't want to play for us.
He had to. Whatever. That's a different can of worms. But still, I feel like he's kind of like that to where like he's just going to be the steady scorer, steady wing that's going to be able to get his shot when it comes within the flow of the offense. And he's always going to be looking for mismatches, always going to look for opportunities to where he can get like an easy bucket or like lay at the rim, get to the free throw line, something like that. So I think that's kind of like a game that, it reminds me of.
Respect.
But again, I would have to give him a thumbs up for sure. I just feel like he's just going to be that consistent guy. And no matter where, the team is as in terms of like wins and losses, he's just always going to be there.
I think
Reliable.
the next three I have can pretty much all be thumbs up, and I think we're both going to agree. Jason Kent, Robbie Avila, and Corvazier McCulley. I don't think any of them can have I mean, the only one I could maybe think of would be Vaz at times, like last week when you go ahead and like focus on that one game he had
I feel
where he
like
only had 5 at the half and then sort of made an impact having 12.
I feel like it's kind of like that for him and
Against
Robbie.
Bradley.
To where like, Robbie, it's kind of hard to say Robbie just because he had that really, really stellar game. But when it comes to, Vaz, it's once he gets there, he came out and just, guns blazing and stuff and kind of cools and kind of, went through the motions ever since then. But it just feels like he's just going to be shooting a shot and you know what I mean? Sometimes they go in, sometimes they go, sometimes they don't. And, for, I believe like 2, maybe 3 of the games that, in this 3 loss, they just haven't been falling. And that's not even really on him. I would say like the last game, he made like 3 or 4 threes. It might have been a lot. It was one of the games in the streak, in the losing streak. But like, again, like he had like one really solid game. But I remember, there was a game where he was like the only person shooting threes. You know what I mean? Who made a 3 that game? You know what I mean? So it just feels like, he's just been like on and off, and that's just what shooters are. Sometimes they're on, sometimes they're off. That's just kind of who he is. But so I can't have to say like, certain games in the stretch he's been looking good. I would say the majority it has been like, his impact has been lesser.
Yeah.
And I feel like the same thing with Robbie. It just feels like since Robbie's again new to the program, freshman, really, really solid, really, really skilled, really, really talented. Just sometimes, that physicality from other like, opposing offenses when he's on
the opposing
defense,
big man.
he's gonna like, he's gonna have like, an easier time than what it would be for other, big men in the Missouri Valley Conference. But, still Robbie has improved steadily, I believe, in his defensive category since the beginning of the season to now. And that's why he has a starting job, just because like, he's steadily improved throughout the season. So that's like the one positive that like we can take from this. Robbie is improving, defensively he's improving.
He just got to get bigger.
Exactly. I think it's just like, I don't even
He's also been in foul trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Foul trouble, that's a really big thing, especially when it comes to young big man. But I don't even think it's like a bigger type of thing. It's more like a, kind of skill, just understanding, like little nuances like that to, especially it's hard for a big man because, normally when they come in, especially when it comes to, freshman year in college, they used to dominate it, in high school and stuff because there's not too many, near 7-footers that be stepping on a high school floor. So it's just kind of like, understanding when there's guys as big as you, who's dominated just like you, how to like guard them, how to, avoid foul trouble, how to make sure that you can be a good team defender and not only just a solo individual defender.
Absolutely. The thing that I have to say about Kent, I really hope Kent just keeps more shooting. That's
for sure. Facts.
I want to see him shoot more. I can't really say anything else. I mean, his defense, he's fouled sometimes, but, he's always an honest defender. Robbie, like I said, he just needs to get in the gym a little bit more. I think Robbie, as soon as he, takes that next step next year, because like you said, it is a completely different. I mean, you're not expected to pick up a D1 conference basketball like this so easy and so quick. There's still highs and lows to everything you do, and that's why you have to keep working on those to become better for your team, for the school, and for, just as yourself as a player. I mean, senior high school to freshman year of college, he's played very good minutes, but I think when you look at it, the only big men are him and Cade, and he has been the most impressive.
That's true.
And then looking at Vaz, McCulley has also, been 100% the leader of this team.
Yeah.
I know I always say Cooper Neese, but really, since McCulley has taken over, coming over from DePaul, he specifically is the one true man they run their offense through. And I think Coach Schertz trusts him so much and talks highly of him all the time.
One thing I would probably try to experiment with if I was coach would be try to play, Caleb Stevens and Xavier
That's
Bledson
another player.
just a little bit more.
I didn't really talk about him a whole lot. He had a very weird impact in the beginning of the season. Stevens and Gibson both were very prominent offensively early. And then, we didn't see Gibson for a whole lot, comes back with a new haircut, and now he's going to get more playing time.
Exactly. He got some DC, and then he got that. But yeah.
Weird as well.
Yeah, but I feel like if you play them a little bit more, and I think this is an opportunity to take advantage of your bench depth, because it's, I think it's obvious that, like, the guy's legs are just not under him. So let's open up the rotation a little bit more.
But is Calyx a 5? I don't think he is.
I think he's a 5 for this squad. You know what I mean? I think if you put him on any other team,
he kind of has to be at 6'7".
Exactly. So I think he's a 5 for this squad, just mainly because, like, and with certain rotations. It's kind of like he don't really play like Draymond Green, but it's kind of like a Draymond Green or, just another small center to where, like, you can run him in the rotation and stuff, but only with specific lineups just because, the size differential. Like, you're not going to be able to play him with, another, like, big man on the opponent's squad just because, it might be difficult. And sometimes even maybe you could, just because you want to run him out, you know what I mean? Because he's just not going to be able to keep up with, 6'7", Caleb Stevens.
Right.
But I do think you should experiment with playing him a little bit more in terms of, running the different types of lineups and stuff like that. Maybe even run Bledson a little bit more just because Bledson is just such a good playmaker. You run, Bledson more, and then, like, especially when it comes to him and him and Cooper Neese connection.
I like seeing Blitz on the court. He just didn't get enough playing time.
Exactly, and it's not even really a skill thing. It's just because we just have so many guys on the roster. It's just kind of tough.
A lot of guards and forwards,
you know,
mainly.
I wish you could make trades in college basketball, but
Can you imagine?
that would be amazing, right? No, it wouldn't. That would be terrible.
That would be awesome.
Not bad, dude. Do not. I'll just be saying. I'll just be talking. But yeah, it's just like if you play with him a little bit more, even like Courvoisier, like you play Bledson, a person who can really run the break. He's a point forward, pretty much. He runs the break and stuff, and I can see just Courvoisier, McCulley, and Cooper Neese, like, just running, just flopping around.
So much
like
potential.
Screens all over the place.
Just hasn't really shown yet.
Defenses ain't going to be able to keep up with Courvoisier, McCulley, and Cooper Neese.
If they're both hot.
If they're both, been able to hit their strokes, and then you have somebody who can pass the ball really, really well, like Bledson, I don't think defenses have an answer for that. I really don't. It depends who you play at the 5. That's the real question. But, like, if you're going to run a rotation like that, just, theoretically, again, I haven't been to every practice. They might have tried it in practice, blah, blah, blah. But just, theoretically, like, I feel like that could just be deadly.
I promise you.
Yeah. So I just feel like, again, it's, Bledson has to, stay out of, technical trouble. But, I just feel like that's just rotation that they should definitely run.
I feel like if you wanted to throw that lineup out there, Robbie would be perfect for offense and Cade would be better for defense.
Facts. I mean,
there's so much potential, man.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's hard.
That's why it hurts more seeing how they have been playing.
Yeah, it just feels like they have a potential to, I feel like each time it's just they have the potential to beat every single opponent. It's just going to be about like playing the right dudes at the right time. I feel like I said this before. Playing the right dudes at the right times, at the right moments, with the right players. That's going to be really imperative for the squad. And like as a head coach, I can't even imagine. You know what I mean? I just feel like it's going to be really, really difficult.
I think this is my final thing before we change subject.
This is interesting though. We're having a good discussion.
It just shows how much we care. And did any of us expect the fact that Indiana State men's basketball would be getting this amount of media coverage and how well they've been playing?
Yeah.
No way. Mm-hmm. No way. You don't expect a whole school and program to be turned around as an 11-20 team a year ago to be turned around to this now.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But now you're getting my hopes up. Now I'm seeing.
Yeah, exactly. And now you're taking away.
I'm seeing what this team has been able to do, and it just hurts a little bit more because, I've been more involved with the sport, this team this year, more than any other year I've ever been here. And then the fact that seeing how well they can and are playing, and then just how it is now,
it's crazy.
It hurts.
It definitely hurts.
I think they have plenty of time still to turn it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't get me wrong.
It's definitely not long. Like I can 1000% see starting next game that like this Indiana State squad just goes on a ridiculous winning streak. And, we start winning a lot of these really imperative games for our season, especially with conference play. So, I can 100% see that happening. And then it's just be like, oh, in the middle of the season, the guys just got kind of tired and stuff. They
right.
have legs to jump for these jump shots, and they weren't falling as a result. But, again, they got a nice little day or two of rest, and then they good. Yep. I can 100% see that happening. But,
we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah,
we got our hopes up.
It's really wait and see mode with the squad, but I hope it's not like a coming down back to like reality mode. We
just escaped, man.
I would hate that. But
I still think this team is in play to win the Missouri Valley Conference. I think the men's team has a way better chance than the women's team.
Yeah,
I think if you look at it last week, they were third in the MVC. Now we're sitting at fifth.
Yeah,
it just shows how close those top 5 teams, top 6 teams can hurt. We've lost to Bradley. We have beaten 4th place Drake, which is going to be a huge game tomorrow. If y'all remember how crazy that game was last time when it was inside the Holman Center, now it's on the road.
Such a good game. Oh.
Southern Illinois, that should have been a win.
Yeah.
Their last 2 home games, Bradley and Southern Illinois, should be wins.
Facts. There's a couple arguments to where like it's just like this kind of happened here, this kind of happened there. This was Missouri State, that was a 1 possession game. It was a 1 possession game. Southern Illinois, that was only 8 points, and you can blame a lot of that for free throws. Again, like the only really there's 2. Of course, 2 of them are really bad losses towards the end. But again, you could argue that really if you roll the dice one more time, it's probably in favor of ISU for those games.
Oh, I get that.
Unfortunately, a loss is a loss, but still, it's not as bad as we making it out to be.
I know.
Still, it hurt.
It does hurt. We'll have to wait and see how this one turns out for them.
For sure.
Coming up on the schedule for the women's team, they have 2 games this weekend and then another one on next Tuesday, which will recap their next 3 games. They have Belmont at home. That'll be Blake and Joe on the call there. Then they have another game on Sunday, which is at 1 p.m. The Belmont game at 6 p.m. Friday. Sunday, 1 p.m., Murray State comes to the Holman Center. Zach Stidham and Joe, you have that game. And then February 1st, it is against Evansville, once again at home. That'll be me, myself, and Blake on the call. And then the men's schedule. Man, there is just not a whole lot of basketball. It blows my mind. I feel like football season just ended. But now here we are, basketball. Northern Iowa, they have a game this Saturday. So we have 3 games this weekend that you can all listen to right here on Z90.7. You're going to stay up to date on all of our social medias for all that. It'll be myself and Ralph Council having that game for the Sycamores in Northern Iowa. And then February 4th, it'll be myself and Joe. So a lot of basketball, man.
Yeah.
Either you go there to support, but if you can't make it, this is where you want to tune in to listen. Promise you. After a quick 30-second break, we have just done a great job talking about the Indiana State women's and men's things going on there. Hopefully they can both turn up with sectional, or not sectionals, I'm thinking of high school, with conference games coming up. We're going to take a quick 30-second break from the ad council, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the Indianapolis Colts, their head coaching search, and then Tyrese Haliburton and how much longer we expect for him to be out. We'll be right back here on Sports Extra on Z90.7 WZIS.
So when you get to the corner of Smith and Orchard, you're going to want to take a left.
Not going to
then what you're going to do is turn onto
Marcy
Marcy
and Brad just
Avenue
broke up,
and go past
and
the first
apparently
3
she's
lights
happy
and then
about
take
it.
the next left.
I don't really
Then drive
think
5
she's
more
happy,
blocks
but
and you should be
who am
there.
I to judge, right?
Park on the
Anyway,
right.
that's
I'll
what
see
I
you
heard
later
last
tonight.
night.
It's hard to concentrate on 2 things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to your number 1 source of Indiana State sports and a lot more sports to come with it. Right here on Sports Extra with myself, Coby Clark, and Joseph the Lawn Moore. Joe, we got some more discussions. Last break, we already took it. We got 15 more minutes. I think this is plenty enough time. I think the Indiana State stuff was the most important stuff because that's relevant more.
Facts.
The Colts and the Pacers. Pacers are just a weird team looking at it right now.
Yeah.
We weren't expecting them to be having good seasons. Wow, it's kind of like I'm talking about the Sycamores and the Pacers in one. We weren't expecting them. They got our hopes up. And now here we are on losing streaks. I'm freaking out.
Galima.
We're going to talk about the Colts first. This is the one interesting thing about how well this has been going.
Yeah.
Well, with quotations. Once upon a time, the Indianapolis Colts had a promising future with their former head coach in Frank Reich. He was offensive coordinator in Philadelphia, won a Super Bowl. He came over here. All you Colts fans were looking up in the world saying, hey, we already got a nice defense. I mean, just the fact now we have an offensive-minded coach, it should be a lot of fun. And, there was some fun in the sun. And then Andrew Luck left. And then Phillip Rivers left.
Yeah.
And then Carson Wentz left.
Yeah.
And then Matt Ryan
It was Matt Ryan.
is Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
So the thing is, does really Frank Reich deserve a whole lot of that blame? I don't know.
That's a great question.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. It's not his decision to be like, ooh, let's go get Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, and Matt Ryan.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like
That was more of an Irsay thing.
the coaching fire wasn't much of a. I don't think that was too bad of a decision because I feel like you got Frank Reich for a specific team in a specific moment that wasn't really too built to last. I mean,
100%
You know what I
agree.
mean? I just felt like, either like one of two things were going to happen when you hire Frank Reich. It was either the Colts was going to be really, really good contenders for the next couple of years and build a really solid squad, just for years, and then he could be the coach over that. Or it was just going to be really good for the moment and then inevitably and very quickly crash and burn. And it felt like we kind of have the crash and burn moment with, Andrew Luck gone. Then you have, Phillip
I'm trying to
Rivers.
think. Did Frank Reich, did he coach Luck
I'm pretty sure
a whole season?
I don't think he did a whole season.
I don't
think he did a
remember.
whole season. I do not think he had a whole season. No, but I think I'm pretty sure he got hired before Andrew Luck announced his retirement.
I'm trying to think, when did Luck retire? Because now I'm thinking 2017. Or was it 2018?
Because I think it was like kind of his health was just up in the air,
Right.
till then. So I'm pretty sure that Andrew Luck was still on the roster when Frank Wright was hired. And then, eventually, obviously, he retired, and then, like, Phillip Rivers, blah, blah, blah. So, but, yeah, I'm pretty sure. But still, I just think, like, when Frank Wright came on as a head coach, he just kind of, was suspected to, like, okay, like you said, good defense, offensive-minded coach, and then, get a couple veterans here and there, make a few nice drive picks, and then, boom, we here. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But didn't really happen like that.
No.
Did not really happen like that. And so I don't really blame the coaching hire. I don't think Frank Wright's a bad coach. I just don't think he.
Oh, I don't either.
I don't think he
I
had
think
like.
he's gonna do a great job in wherever he goes. Might be Carolina.
Facts. I would like to see him in Carolina.
I wouldn't,
I think he's really good at like just kind of like maintaining like a status quo type team to where like you want to be like at least competitive in the conference and stuff.
Is Frank Reich the kind of coach though that wants to be in a rebuild? I don't know.
That's a great question. That's really good. I
A lot of people
know.
don't want that, which a lot of people were thinking, oh wow, Sean McVay, is he gonna stay with the Rams? Because they had the worst year ever. After
Yeah,
winning the Super
exactly.
Bowl. I thought the Broncos collapse was bad.
Yeah.
That was pretty bad.
Yeah, exactly. And I can understand that from a coaching standpoint because, like,
still
ultimately,
on that
you
collapse.
kind of, like, punish for winning games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just kind of punish because you're like, oh, dog, you're not getting us our draft pick, man. It's kind of like a Lovie Smith or, somebody like that to where, like, you're part of a rebuilding team. It's kind of like, kind of a little up in the air and stuff. But, again, like, I don't actually know. I feel like I would like to see him in Carolina just because I feel like, Carolina just, gets a QB and then, like, have, like, kind of a squad, whether you keep or you trade away DJ Moore or, like, a few pieces like that. I feel like, you can have, like, I think you can surprise a couple people if you Carolina next year. But, yeah, I definitely feel that. So, but, again, coaching, a whole bunch of coaching interviews for the Colts and, got a draft coming up.
We kind of talked about it last week and how some of them are still, flowing in. But the update on that is that the virtual interviews are over, and now they're doing in-person interviews. Now, it has not been said who the in-person interviews will be. But you got to assume from this list, it's got to be whenever the season ends for Eric Bieniemy and the Chiefs. I think he's one of them. I still think he makes the most sense. Personally, in my opinion, I think this would be an amazing New Orleans Saints coach coming next year. The offensive coordinator in Detroit named Ben Johnson.
True.
I'm not going to get into that, but it makes a lot of sense.
It would.
I think we're going to get to this man, Jeff, but Dan Quinn as well. He has the experience, but I don't think he would want to leave Dallas. I don't know if he wants to leave.
Exactly.
I like how he is over there. Shane Steichen is another one, the OC in Philly.
Yeah. And then there's like the I think it is the defensive coordinator for San Francisco.
Raheem or D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah,
He's going to get a job, but I don't think it's this
for
Colts,
the Colts team. Yeah, exactly.
I think it's the Texans.
Ooh.
But I think the Colts make sense too.
Yeah, I feel like there's a couple like options. There's a couple like really good coaching candidates.
Hopefully he
out
gets
there.
an offer
You
from
know,
somebody.
Exactly, and that's kind of like a good position if you're the Colts. You know what I mean? You have a couple of guys that like more than a couple of guys who are more than qualified for the job.
Agreed.
And I think there's a very high floor to how bad you can go with the coaching hire. But again, what Jim Irsay is good at doing is hitting a floor. So it just feels like that's just almost inevitable sometimes with the Colts.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's going forward. I feel like this is going to be a really good coaching hire for the Colts. I'm not like super partial to any candidate at this point. I feel like I think whatever you go for, as long as it's reasonable, I think is going to be a pretty solid decision for the Colts. I'm sure they're putting a lot of time, a lot of effort into their coaching search, and then you go into the draft, and then you pretty much are locked to get like C.J. Stroud.
Which I think they should still take.
Exactly. I feel like that's just kind of like a lock. I think that's your guy. And so like
Easily.
But who knows? You feel me? Like the draft, that's the fun thing about the draft. You don't really
They might
know.
trade up.
Exactly.
Someone might jump ahead of them. I don't know.
They might jump, they might trade up, a big name from the Colts might get traded. I could see that happening if they want to get rid of some.
That wouldn't be the draft. I feel like that'd be off-season stuff.
No, yeah. What I
don't
mean,
really
like,
see
the
that.
draft as an off season. But yeah, like it just feels like that's an option that the Colts could have. there's a couple of options on the table, and like that's the scary thing is because like the Colts have the opportunity to have like one of the probably the best offseason out of any team in the NFL.
Easily, man.
They 100% can do that. Or they could totally fumble the bag, and then we just like, throw his hands up. Hopefully, we can pick up so and so. Like he's leaving the team. Let's pick him up for quarterback. It's just again, like I just don't know.
I don't either, man.
Whenever I have just a little bit of faith, a little bit of hope, it's just just
Could
off
be
to
me.
the win. You know what I mean? Ever since that debacle with Carson Wentz, it's just been just up in there.
That was really when the flood happened.
Really? Yeah, exactly. It just feels like
Open the gates.
It's just awful. It's just bad.
Another name, OC for the Bengals, Brian Callahan. I really like that idea.
Ooh,
I feel like if you want a young quarterback, you want an OC from a good team that's already doing that, which would be Steichen from Philly or Callahan from Cincinnati. But I think another good name, which I stand by, if Andy Reid can have Mahomes, Bieniemy can have Stroud. And I think there's something there that you just have to open your eyes to.
That's true. And I mean, like
Stroud is special, I think.
I think he's nice. I think he's
better than Young. I think he's better than Levis.
Okay, fair. I can understand how you come to that point. I just think that in terms of coaching to a new quarterback, it's very specific. You have to really, really study what that quarterback is good at. You know what I mean? What that quarterback system that he's used to playing, his play style, and how that translates to the league, which is another really big, really difficult thing to do from from an offense standpoint. And then you also have to kind of couple that with a head coach. So it's just kind of like you have to have all those things in tune for the closer you get to it, the better the coach. The farther away you get from those things, the worse in coach you hire. And again, you can't really go after names. You saw what the Jacksonville Jaguars did. They went after names, and then that blew up in their face last season.
But it worked.
A
little bit.
They here now. They here now. They just
That's a whole other conversation. Now Walker, man, has he really done a whole lot?
You mean like the head coach for?
No, Walker, the first overall pick for Jacksonville.
Oh, that's a good point. Ooh,
I know Hutchinson has turned it up for Detroit.
Ooh, I actually need to watch some film then.
We're gonna have to talk. That's an uncut thing.
That is because we need to go over like the draft and like how
we have a whole lot to be talking about.
Exactly. We have like
NBA
really
first.
Draft.
We'll get all that.
Thank you. Finally,
we'll get all
neglected.
I know. We'll get into that at the end of this show.
Sweet, but yeah, again with the Colts, they have a couple of options going ahead of them, and we'll see what we do.
I think the last thing before we get on to Pacers for a little bit, Jeff Saturday, it was fun, man. All the good memes of you beating the Raiders were great. But go home.
Yeah, it's okay.
Go home.
Yeah, no, don't even go home. Just go in the locker room, man. Like, you know what I mean? I'm sure there's like
he should
a position.
not be anywhere near this locker
No,
room.
I think there's
he can go back to TV, but I don't think they'll let him.
That's true. I feel like there's a position in like the front. I think that just because the front office just like Jeff Saturday. I think like he was just like, a likable dude in the locker room. They're like,
but this should not have been the way it should have gone. Let's be honest.
Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. It's crazy. Oh Lord, the Colts.
Yeah, I think next week we're gonna have to look at a couple of mock drafts for the Colts, and just seeing with their first couple of picks how that's all gonna work out for them. Who we think they should take. My idea. Maybe they should trade. Maybe they should go with the second round here, third round there. Should be a lot of fun. Last thing before we get on out of here today is an update about Tyrese Haliburton. This man has been out for a couple of weeks now with a nagging injury. 2 injuries, really. And they have certainly not helped out in any way, as Tyrese Haliburton now, with a 7-game losing streak, these Pacers it's weird. Yeah. We just don't know what we wanted at the beginning, but now we do. But now we really are scared of without him, which we desperately need him, but we don't want to rush him because we don't expect anything coming up from the season. Take your time. Take a month off. I don't care. But his update really is, just he hopes to be back by February, by the early stages of February, the first week, maybe 2. But he hopes to be back 100% by mid-February, ride it out for the All-Star game, and that's it.
It's tough.
That's his own update.
It's scary. It's definitely scary. And it couldn't have come at a worse time for the Pacers.
Which is, the worst of times.
And because, like, All-Star break is right around the corner, you know what I mean?
He better still be elected. I think he should play. I don't know if he
100%
will, though.
It is preposterous. And this is the thing. I hate fan voting. I low-key think they should low-key take it away. I'm not going to lie to you.
Really? They
Or, like,
really
change-
should. It makes sense in NFL, but I hate the NBA.
Yeah, it just feels like there's too many casuals in an NBA fan base, which is good for like the NBA terms because like casuals bring you money. You know what I mean? Most of the NBA is just going to be casual. It is what it is. But like, there's too many people who just don't watch the players that deserve to be an All-Star. Like, Domantas Sabonis just got on, like, the top 10 in front courts in the West in terms of All-Star votes.
They don't watch basketball.
They don't. It's crazy. Like the beam. Like, it's insane that...
The beam.
Exactly. Good
for them.
It's insane.
Good
it's
for
insane.
them.
And shout out Sacramento. They're having a really good season. And, like, Sabonis is putting up not even just All-Star numbers. He's putting up All-NBA numbers.
He got better.
He got
better.
And I love it.
But we got better, too.
Say that again.
We got better, too.
Exactly.
It was a win-win.
Exactly. It's a fantastic trade. And, like, it's just like there's so many guys on so many teams that are like, winning and that are playing like, all career level types of play. And they just not going to get looked at by like the average voter unless you're in a big market, unless you're in New York, unless you're in, Chicago, unless you're in LA,
I wouldn't even say Chicago.
Exactly.
Florida, maybe Miami. I don't know.
Exactly.
Not Orlando.
Miami, that's a good point, But again, like you said, not Orlando. I'm not even gonna lie. I think Paolo Banchero should probably be an All-Star this year. I ain't gonna flex.
Yes, he should be.
I don't think he will be
though? No.
No, because we ain't have like a rookie All-Star since Blake Griffin.
Yeah, Blake.
So I don't think that's
Prime
really
Blake,
gonna happen.
man.
But like in other years that'll probably be the case. But again, like I just feel like this couldn't come at a worse time for the Pacers. Right before we get into like the All-Star type of festivities, he goes out and then like it just again another shout out to the impact that he has on the court because like he's just such a good playmaker. He's such a good game manager to where like you can just put him on the floor. He's just gonna make every single body on the court better, and it's just tough. Just having him come out. Of course, this is a good opportunity for like a player like Benedict Mathurin or it's just a couple of guys on the bench who can get like opportunity to get some run when they don't normally. But it's just kind of have to throw your hands in the air and just be like, oh well, just kind of is what it is. And hopefully he comes back, but
he will come back.
It
I just
depends.
don't want him to be rushed.
I don't want to.
Nobody wants that.
Definitely no.
Just be careful.
And the good thing is, like, I just heard him in the JJ Redick podcast. He was in the podcast with him, JJ Redick, and Benedict Mathurin. Definitely recommend that.
I need to listen to that.
Definitely
still.
recommend
Haven't
it.
got to yet.
Too
many podcasts to listen to.
Exactly, and it's funny because JJ Redick was talking about the Pacers. I see him as a playoff team. They're really, really good. And then the moment he says that, Tyrese Haliburton goes out.
JJ,
you know what I mean?
what are you doing?
It's his fault. It is his fault. And so, like, it was a really good podcast. But what Tyrese Haliburton said in that podcast, he basically said that it wasn't an injury to where he's like immobile or you know what I mean. Like it's nothing that's going to be like structurally. He barely feels pain right now. There's none that should hinder basketball play, which is good. But again, just tough being
Pretty
a Pacers
tough,
fan for me. But hopefully we trade. Hopefully we make a really nice trade, whether that be OG, whether that be John Collins.
I want OG.
I've talked myself
Collins.
I've talked myself into both of those guys.
OG makes so much sense though.
It does. It makes sense. None of it makes sense. This team in general, this season for the Pacers, none of it makes sense. But like what I mean. I just kind of talked myself into it. They could compete and they can. I don't know.
They talked me into it.
Exactly.
I was like, Victor Wembanyama. And
exactly.
I'm going to get him. He'll probably go to Greg Popovich, be the next Tim Duncan. I don't know. Or a great duo with LaMelo.
Pain.
I don't know anymore.
Forever pain.
Can you imagine this? Cade Cunningham is not going to play all this year, and it could be Cade, Jaden Ivey, and Victor. That big three would be crazy.
I was thinking about that too, and it really made me mad. It really
Makes me want to be them.
I low key like. I feel like in a very close universe, in a parallel universe that's not too far from this one, Joe is a Pistons fan because I always appreciated the Pistons. One of my
How could you?
because one
House
of my
of the
favorite
Palace.
teams is the Bad Boy Pistons because, like, you know, I think Isaiah Thomas is really cool. You know, I love his story. I love, like, just the attitude because, like, back in the day, it used to be really, like, you know, you walk around with some swag because you had some Pistons gear on. It used to be cool to be a Pistons fan.
True.
Now, not so much because, you know, ever since Andre Drummond, that's a whole nother can of worms. But, you know, now he just bleh. But, you know, still, I think
Blake was a Piston.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's disgusting. Actually, he had a few good years. He had a few good years. I'll give it to him. But yeah, it's just, it's definitely tough being an Indiana sports fan right now and here.
Hopefully it all figures it out itself out. Sycamores, got to get to the winning ways, make a splash in the conference,
We'll see.
you know, conference tournament.
For sure.
Men's and women's. They're going to turn me up. I'm still going to have their support. Always.
100%. I had their back.
Colts, no. Pacers, yeah.
Never. Pacers, of course.
I hope they find a good hand coach soon. I hope the Pacers get all healthy and just figure out the direction they want to go to for a fun offseason. We just want to get the guys getting better.
Facts.
And of course, we want these Sycamores to win out. All the way.
100%.
All the time. That was a good episode, Joe.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
Yeah.
Definitely not really fun topics. You know what I mean?
It has to be done.
Exactly. But, you know, we had our own little spin on it. We had a good discussion. You know, we took it here, took it there, took it everywhere to try to make it as entertaining, as least depressing as possible.
Absolutely. Good episode. Of course, until next time, next Monday, we will always be here 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, whether it be on our Twitch or here as you guys are listening, doing some homework, or, you know, driving in your car late at night. Z90.7 WZIS. Make sure you follow all of our social media. You can follow us on Twitch to make sure that you can watch us in the studio do these. Follow for sports live updates of every home game on our Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're blowing up on everything at WZIS-FM. If you want to be interested in joining this radio station, we've had a few come through when I've been saying this. We're going to say it again. Room 323, Dreiser Hall, ISU. It's the third floor. Man, we have a good, you know, group of guys here. Good group of guys and gals.
Beautiful. We're getting some amazing things done this year. I can't wait to see how we end off the year.
It's only going to be better, man.
Of course.
Started out great. Got to be better.
Yeah.
Job's not finished.
Mentality.
Facts. Tomorrow we have Sports Extra Uncut, 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. We're going to be talking about the NBA, the NFL playoffs. Who knows what else? Got to show up on our Twitch. That will not be on the radio, only on our Twitch.
Facts.
Joe, any more last words before we get on out of here and send the people home happy?
Go Pacers.
Light the beam.
Light the beam. Love it.
And go Pacers.
Obviously.
For Joseph the Lawnmower, I've been the Coby Clark. Everyone, be safe. Have a great rest of your week. Whether you're, you know, going through any struggles, you can always come here to get a sense of relief.
Of course.
Out of your busy daily lives. Until next time, everybody, peace out.